And now that we were going to be engaged and go to that negotiating stage, he's now bringing up that how upset he was about the breakup after all these years. You know, he's saying that I cried for months and you were not crying and you were dating other people and I was not even thinking about anybody else and you are so horrible for doing this. And he's like so upset, you know, about this, and he's mad at me because I put him through that and I tortured him.
Well, he's trying to lure you into a codependent relationship. All the words that you said to me are codependent phrases. You made me. You tortured me. You didn't torture him, did you? Did you, like, hold a fire to his feet or a gun to his head or something? No, you didn't even talk to him probably. You did not torture him. And you didn't put him through anything. He put himself through it. A responsible adult person wouldn't even say things like that. Those are addictive phrases said by a person whose only model for relationship is codependency. You made me, you hurt me. In other words, I'm suffering and it's your fault. So if that's something that's fun for you, then get used to it, because that is a codependent relationship and they have a very predictable outcome. And it's not pretty. Well, it's not pretty. It spirals into addictions and infidelities and fights and ultimately separation, because in a codependent relationship like that, there's always one person who's 100% and the other one who's a 0. There's always a master and a slave. There's always a golden one and one made of lead. Which one are you?
Probably not the gold.
Okay. There's a blamer and a blamee. There is a wrongdoer and a victim. You know?
Yeah.
That's how those relationships work. That's the model, you see? And so how people get out of those relationships is almost always through triangulation. So there'll be a wrongdoer and a victim and a hero. You see? There'll be somebody doing somebody wrong, and there'll be somebody who will be suffering over that, and then there'll be a good person that'll help this one, the victim, out of it.
Yeah.
Okay? And in those relationships, both people are fighting for, this is going to surprise you, they're fighting for the victim position. All of your fights will be about, you did me wrong. I'm the victim. No. You did me wrong. I'm the victim. Does this sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, give yourself a break, because nobody ever taught you another model, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever came along and said, wait a minute, this is not how it works. This is not this is a model that's destined for self-destruction. There's no well-being and happiness and prosperity and fulfillment and full self-expression and excitement and love and joy in this relationship. There's no possibility for that. Maybe momentarily there will be lapses of unhappiness where you forget to be unhappy because you went out to an amusement park for the day, or you took some really good drugs, or you had a great meal, or you got whatever, some great sex or something, but it's always a temporary lapse of pain. That's what's available in a codependent relationship. You asked the question, how do I change that? Yes?
Yes.
And you came to the right place for that. There is some deprogramming that needs to be done. So the problem with this particular issue is that you've had a lifetime of sort of getting used to it. And so now it becomes the model of relationships for you, and it's really hard to let it go. You get attached to it. So part of the work that we do in the workshops, the women-only workshops and the HIM workshop, the men's workshop that I do that's called Honor, Integrity, and Mastery, is to get people face to face with, well, wow, how that's really working in their life, and also get you face to face with what it is that you really want, what's your truest, highest desire and purpose in life. You have a purpose for being in this life, and it's a good one, it's a noble one, it's one that's thrilling and powerful and compelling, and you may or may not know what that is. But in these workshops, you get in touch with that, and you actually see that it's possible to fulfill this purpose in your life. And then what becomes very apparent is all of the things in your life that are not in line with that are not congruent, that are inconsistent with that mission. Do you see? So you begin to clean up your life, and a lot of it has to do with letting go of things, with redesigning who you are for yourself, and learning to really appreciate and love yourself for who you are. And that doesn't take a lot of effort. Once you get who you are, you will be in love with that person, because you're magnificent, and you have an enormous treasure of resources inside you that you may or may not have ever really tapped into. But most of us have had these peak moments in our life, these moments when we were incredibly joyful, and where we had insights, and where we had moments of wisdom and vision. That is a natural state of being. It's possible to be in a heightened state of awareness and anticipation of goodness and well-being almost all the time, okay? It doesn't mean you don't have challenges, and that you don't have things that you have to work through, and that you have other things that you don't understand or that you have to learn, but it means that you're in a heightened state of well-being. Now, in that state, how much of people making you wrong, blaming you, being the victim and all that, do you think you would have space for?
Nothing.
Right. Exactly. Right? I don't want any poison, any toxin, any disgusting stuff in my life. I don't have the space for it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right? So when I mentioned to you earlier, we could talk about what we want, but sometimes it's easier to say what you don't want. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want any blame, any victimhood, any shouting, any violence, any those kind of things. I don't want that stuff in my life. So you begin to design your life in these workshops, and of course, it may sound like I'm trying to push our workshops, but I don't know where else you're going to find this stuff. I don't know where you're going to find this learning in a 3-day period, where you actually go into a workshop, you clean up some things in your life, you reorient your life, and you set out of there, and your viewpoint of life is entirely different, and you're renewed as a human being. And we've seen it over and over and over and over and over now. We've done these workshops for the last 4 or 5 years in I don't know, 6 different countries now. It works. Taking 3 days of your life, taking a few moments to sit down with somebody who actually can guide you through processes in a very controlled environment, in which the outcome of those processes is predictable. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like we're trying to roll the dice and say, well, I hope this works on these people. It works. We know it works. We've done it, right? Over and over. So we know the outcome is pretty predictable. That the person's going to come out the other end of this workshop completely lit up, turned on, enlivened, and we have hundreds of people all over the world that are writing each other and creating a community over in Iran and Dubai and England and Toronto and Boston and here in California that are in communication, like a worldwide community of women who are in communication with each other, bragging about all the great stuff that's happening in their life. And I get to see their pictures and stuff, and I don't even recognize some of them. It's like, that's her? They've lost weight, they've changed their face, they've changed their hair, they've changed their job. They're just like a totally different human being now. And that's from the women's workshops. And in the men's workshops, there's similar results. Fewer men take the men's workshop than there are women take the women's workshops, which is pretty normal, you can imagine. But the men go on to be quite successful in their careers. I've had several of my graduates go on to be multimillionaires when they were trying to figure out 2 years ago how to pay for the workshop.